it play and call it work.
Hello everyone and welcome to an Age of Sigmar Idoneth Deepkin Battletome review. We just got this book in and I am excited. I actually love this book. A lot of really cool things for the Deepkin coming up for our upcoming Age of Sigmar battle reports. I'm already working on some, so unfortunately I have nothing to show you right now in this video. So I'm just going to sit here looking at my mug as I go over this book and talk about the future of my Age of Sigmar battle reports. But I'm sure other people want to play these guys as well. This is one of the most exciting releases in a while. I've been really, what's what I'm looking for? Anticipating? There we go, I found a good word. So we have a bunch of water elves. Now there's a handful of people who have lore videos explaining why we have elves with different colors of skin. Some are blind, some are pale, some are more of a flesh tone, and how they came into being. But I'll give you the quick short version. A lot of the elves at the end times of Warhammer Fantasy during the Great War at the end were devoured and digested by Slaanesh. 1,000 years later, well, not 1,000 years later, I'm not sure exactly when Tyrion, Malarian, Teclis, and Marathi captured Slaanesh. After a period of time imprisoned, they were able to release a bunch of elven souls that were first digested by Slaanesh to create the new elven races for the realm of, the world of Age of Sigmar. Now, Teclis himself had made or attempted to make a race of elves with a very sinister name. I forget, off the top of my head, I can't remember what he called them. But they failed. Their souls were too heavily digested, or tainted is a better word, by Slaanesh. They fell into the seas and have become the Deepkin. More lore stuff you'll find from better, more articulate people than myself that can explain it to you all over the web. But let's talk about just the tabletop aspect of the Deepkin. You can tell I'm a little excited here. This Battletome is super interesting. The models are fantastic. So far, the best, in my opinion, that we've seen. For a game that already has really good models. And the rules, I'll tell you this right now, this is going to be a really strong book, I believe. I think I know. I haven't played around a whole lot with point costs to make the lists, but just the individual unit entries are super interesting. So, everybody's seen that big old Idolons of Mathlann model. I at first thought that was Teclis. I think it was more wishful thinking. Those Idolons are big aspects of Mathlann. Mathlann was the elven sea god, who is dead, killed by Slaanesh. And these are aspects, as is the best word, I think the word they use as well, of Mathlann. A bunch of, when the Deepkin die, some of their mages take the souls and use them to create these Idolons of Mathlann. So the one criticism I have for this entire book is I can't pronounce anything. That's it. Everything else is awesome. So the Idolon of Mathlann, not Mathlann, has two aspects. Aspect of the Storm, which is the close combat guy, and then the aspect of the Sea, which is the mage. Now, they're relatively both similar point costs. Like, I think the aspect of the Storm, the warrior one is 400 points. The mage one is 440 points. I like the aspect of the Storm, but I think we're going to see more use of the aspect of the Sea, but that also is more to my play style. So many of you will love the warrior of the aspect of Storm. For 400 points, you get a 12-inch move model with 12 wounds, 3 save, and a bravery of 10. 2 good combat weapons. Okay, so the main combat weapon is 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 2s, -2, 2 damage, but on the charge, it's something like 3 damage and reroll 1s to hit, and it's 3 damage on the charge. A cruel hook, another weapon that does, hits on 2s, wins on 3s, only 1 rend, 1 damage, and then 2d6 attacks from that big water cape you've all seen. So a lot of attacks, and the ability to affect heroes and the enemy heroes in the hero phase that are within 3 of them. So it's already in combat with the enemy hero, as long as he has 8 or less wounds, he can have them slowly get pulled into the deep, and basically that enemy hero is -1 to hit. which is kind of cool because being slowly pulled in the deep goes on to the entire lore of the army. They are underwater dwelling race that use, I'm gonna get the name correctly, Isharan Tidecasters to basically summon what's the best way to articulate this? Not summon the ocean onto land, but the Deepkin are able to swim through the land as if the ocean was there, and if this summoned ocean, which isn't really there, is summoned into your town or whatever, you're ready to fight them, you can almost feel like you're drowning. You have the effects like you're underwater, but you're not really underwater. I think the lore in this book is actually, I haven't read it all yet, but everything I read is so cool. So the fact that you're fighting underwater throughout this entire book is a theme you're going to see popping up in a few rules. The other Idolon, the Idolon of Mathlann, the aspect of the sea, the mage one, he's a little slower with only 10-inch move, but the same wound, same save, same bravery. He has a 15-inch range attack for D3 attacks. 3s and 3s, -2, 2 damage. Nice range attack. You can always reroll castings for this model once per phase. But if you don't reroll your casting attempt, or reroll a casting attempt, you heal D3 wounds, which is pretty sweet. You add 3 to the bravery of other Deepkin within 9 of this model. And it comes with 2 powers exclusive to the Idolon of Mathlann aspect of the sea. It's Cloying Sea Mist. Cloying Sea Mist has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick a unit within 12 of the caster that is visible to them. If the unit is a friendly Idoneth Deepkin, you can heal D3 wounds to that unit. Any other unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. And Tsunami of Terror is really cool. It's high casting, it's casting at 7. If successfully cast, pick D6 enemy units within 12. And must be visible to the caster. Subtract 1 to the hit rolls made for all those units, and subtract 1 to the bravery characteristics. That's a really powerful spell. All that for 440 points. Again, not terrible in combat. 3 attacks with his trident, 3s and 3s, -2, 2 damage, and then 3s and 3s, -1, 1 damage for another 3 attacks for just like his scepter. And then he also has the Storm Shawl, or Shoal, big water cape, 2d6 attacks, 4s and 4s. I went right to them right away because I know everybody's super excited to know exactly what those two did. I know that those are the things I went to this book first and foremost. But there's plenty more entries. But before I go on to the rest of the entries, I feel it's worth talking about the aspect abilities of the armies. See, I didn't know if I should go to the aspect abilities first or go to the models first. But I guess we'll go to the aspect first because it is really kind of exciting. So you have a better understanding of the models and how they'll play. Oh, man, okay. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of either aspect abilities, command traits, relics, the new lore of the deep, or Isharan abilities in this book. So I'll go through all that for you. The allegiance abilities, so if you are a Idoneth Deepkin army, you have Forgotten Nightmares. Missile weapons can only be used to target Idoneth Deepkin units with this battle trait if they're the closest visible enemy. So powerful. That's your allegiance ability. So good. Shooting armies will not be able to pick their targets. Your characters are always going to be safe. They have the 40k level of safety, where you have to be the closest model to be shot at by enemy bows or enemy cannons. Now, interestingly enough, there's no sniper variant in this game because characters are fully targeted before. So right now, unless I'm mistaken, there's no way to really target these guys with your shooting attacks. Other than the closest unit, which is a strategy or something you can play with to really capitalize on the defensive abilities this book can have. This book can be very defensive or very offensive. I think you're playing a little bit of both. That one there is going to be, I know it's going to be, people are going to talk about that one a bit. And comment below how you feel about that. How do you feel about playing an Age of Sigmar army where you can't pick your target with your missile weapons? You have to target the closest thing. Now, the lore behind it is, not all these guys are born with souls or full souls, and it's easy to forget them because they don't have souls. It's a little more in depth than that, but it's really cool. And another thing we have is the Tides of Death table. This was released a couple days ago on Warhammer Community, but I'll go over it again. So the army has a Tides of Death ability as a special rule per battle round, and envision this, because it's kind of the lore of it, as you look at this table. It's about a big wave coming in, crashing down and then receding, and then it does it again. That's what waves do. So turn 1, low tide. Water's way back here, ready to come on. In this battle round, all units with the Tides of Death battle trait are treated as being in cover. I haven't played a whole lot of games where I've had cover in a while. I'm sure cover's a big part of the game still. But yeah, whole army, cover, turn 1. Turn 2, in the battle round, all units with Tide of Death battle trait can still either shoot or charge in the same turn. Shoot and charge in the same turn, but not both. So you can run and shoot or run and charge. High Tide, this is another really good one. Battle round 3. Units with the Tides of Death battle trait fight before any other units in the combat phase. Fight with all eligible Deepkin units one after another, and resolve any other fights with any other unit. So you charge your entire army on turn 3. You do all your attacks, and then your opponent will fight back. The how many units to charge and which order to fight with is such a big part of Age of Sigmar that they're just taking that rule on just battle round 3. They're just throwing it out the window, and it's a huge strength. So couple that with shooting armies can't pick their targets, so they're not gonna have truly effective shooting. I mean, they're gonna have shooting, but you know the target priority is a big deal in most tabletop games, right? So shooting, you lost your target priority, and then on turn 3, battle round 3, the Deepkin are all fighting first. It's 2 big core mechanics of the game. We're just throwing out the window and saying, hey, we're going to do it our way. And then that's the wave crashing, right? Turn 4, the wave recedes, ebbing to the ebb tide. This battle round, all units with the Tides of Battle trait can retreat and still shoot or charge, but not do both. So you can fall back, retreat, and shoot your opponent, or charge somebody else, or charge back in. Especially if you have rules that give you bonuses on the charge. And then turn 5, you repeat turn 1, and then you go back over again. So the wave comes back in again. So turn 5, you're all in cover. You come in, you do your damage, you pull back. You come in, do your damage, you pull back. I think everything about this book is built to my playstyle. Command traits, so many of them. Should I go over all of them? Now, this video will be too long if I go over them all. So the first page of command traits is just command traits for the Deepkin armies. Anything really... There's Unstoppable Fury, add 2 attack characteristics of any weapons used by the general. Another good one is Born of Agony, increase the general's wound characteristics by 2. So, 6 command traits. Nothing super amazing, nothing really terrible. And... Wait, that's the only... Oh, I'm sorry, there's only 1 page of command traits. I'll go over all of them then. The rest are artifacts. 1, 2, 3 4 pages of artifacts. So we'll go to all the command traits then. So you have, you can reroll run and charge rolls for the general. It's a good command ability. Reroll wound rolls of 1 for the general. Add 2 to the attack characteristics. Of any weapons used by the general in a battle in which the high tide ability is in effect. So you have to have everybody who's attacking first for the +2 attacks. So I guess that one's not that good. But if you're going to charge on turn 3 because you're planning to charge on turn 3 because your army, that's the whole... Yeah, so it's not that bad. It's pretty good. Increase the wounds your general by 2 is really good. I like that one. Especially since you can't get really shortened down by shooting. Unless you put your character out too far forward. Nightmare Legacy, subtract 1 from the Bravey characteristic of enemy units while within 12 of the general. And Lord of Storm and Sea, add 2 to the Bravey characteristics of all friendly Idolons of Deepkin while they're wholly within 12 of the general. Couple that with the aspect of the storm, and you have +5 bravery for not a terrible command ability. Now, artifacts. This one I'm not going to go over all of them because there's literally 4 pages of them. We have 6 artifacts just for the Akhelian models. Now the Akhelians, I'll go over all of them. They're all the mounted stuff. So the big turtle we've all seen, the guys riding the sharks, which awesome. The guys riding the eels, and the High Kings, the Akhelian High Kings. One in here I thought was really good is number 1? Yeah, the Sanguine Pearl. Roll dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the bearer, if it was caused by a melee weapon. On a 5+, the wound is negated. but 6 whole artifacts for the Akhelians. So characters on mounts. I think it's just the one. Yeah, it's the one. A generic page of Idoneth artifacts everybody can use. There's one here, just every time you allocate a wound to the bear on a 6, the wound is ignored. Wound or mortal wound. The Cloud of Midnight, once per battle at the start of any phase, the bearer can release the Cloud of Midnight. If they do so, they cannot be chosen to target for attacks, spells, or abilities for the rest of the phase, but cannot themselves attack or use spells and abilities for the rest of the phase. You have a big old monster to charge in, and maybe you only have a couple wounds left, like the Aspect of the Sea. He can hold down a bunch of units, pop this at the start of the combat phase, and he can't attack himself, but those models can't attack him. So that is potentially pretty good. That one I'm going to play around with. I think that's one you're going to see me use a couple of times. But yeah, a page of Idoneth, or 6 artifacts just for the army as a whole. And then a page of artifacts for the Isharan. The Isharan are the mages and priests of the army. There's a the Isharan Tidecaster. They're the ones who are responsible for summoning on the fake ocean onto land. There's one, the priestly one, whose his job is to, well, there's 2 more. So one of them's job is to reap the souls. The other one's job is to make sure the souls get where they're supposed to go. But they're all called Isharan Tidecaster, Isharan Soul Reaver, and Isharan something else. But a page of artifacts just for those guys. They're basically a mage, a priest, and a warrior. Yeah, a warrior. Kind of a priest guy too. Arcane artifacts just for heroes that are also wizards. And then the Lore of the Deep, their own lore. Not only are there 6 spells here, but there are, I don't know what the word is. We call them chapter tactics in 40k. There are enclaves. There are many Deepkin enclaves in this book. Some of them have their own spell as well that are exclusive just for that enclave. Like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 enclaves. Let's go over the Lore of the Deep, because that's one thing I think many people want to know all about. So spell number 1, Steed of Tides. Steed of Tides is a casting value of 5. If successful, pick a friendly hero that is not a monster, and that is within 6 of the caster and visible to them. Remove that model from the battlefield and then set it up again within 24 of its previous location and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. This counts as models move. So take a little teleport. That can win you a game. Abyssal Darkness, casting value of 5. Successfully cast until your next hero phase. Friendly Idoneth Deepkin units are treated as being within cover, as long as they're wholly within 9 of the caster. So we have, turn 1, turn 5, you're going to be with cover. This spell puts a unit within cover. Wait. It's all units within 9 of the caster. So you have more than 1 unit in cover from this spell. The big Leviathan turtle, he hands out cover as well. So cover is a big deal in this army. And its armor as a whole is not below average at all for this army. Vorpal Maelstrom. Vorpal Maelstrom has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick a point on the battlefield within 18 of the caster and visible to them. Roll a die for each unit within 3 of that point. If the die roll is equal to or less than the number of models in the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. I like that one too. You'll see use of that one. Pressure of the Deep. Pressure of the Deep has a casting value of 7. Okay, it's high casting value for spells typically. If successfully cast, pick an enemy model within 12 of the caster and visible to them. Roll a die. If the die roll is greater than the model's wound characteristics, it's slain. Great way you're popping out enemy banners. Low-level characters. I know, like Seraph and Priest only have 4 wounds. Kill them in 1 shot. Because it's not remaining wounds, it's wound characteristics. So it's not that easy to use. It's high casting value too, but has its uses. Tide of Fear. Tide of Fear is a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 12 of the caster that is visible to them until your next hero phase. Subtract 1 from the hit rolls for that unit and 1 from the bravery of that unit. I like that one. It's only 12-inch range, but -1 to hit. I mean, plenty of abilities that proc off of X to hit. I mean, you just made that much harder for them. I love -whatever to hit on your opponent. Arcane Corrosion has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick the closest enemy unit within 48 of the caster. Closest enemy unit within 48 of the caster. So you have a lot of range, but you're pretty much not picking your target. If your opponent knows you have the spell, he's picking the target if you want to cast the spell. Or he or she's picking the target. If successfully cast, pick the closest enemy unit within 48 of the caster and measure the distance between the caster and the unit. If the distance is up to 12, the target suffers 1 mortal wound. If the distance is more than 12 and up to 24, it suffers 2 mortal wounds. And if the distance is 24 to 36, it suffers 3 mortal wounds. If it's more than 36 up to 48, 4 mortal wounds. I don't know how useful this spell is going to be. It's going to be really tricky to get off, but somebody out there will make great use of it and do really amazing things with it. And last page for army rules. Isharan rituals. Remember those Isharan are those 3 character types. They're all 100 points each. They can do rituals. Isharan heroes from the Idoneth Deepkin army can perform the following Isharan ritual in your hero phase. A maximum of 1 Isharan ritual can be performed in each hero phase. In order to perform a ritual, you must start at the start of your hero phase. Say which ritual is being performed. And then pick 1 Isharan hero from your army that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So you can't perform a ritual when you're within 9 of an enemy. Roll 2d6. Add 1 to the roll if the hero performing the ritual is within 1 of a Gloom-Tide shipwreck. That is that new piece of terrain that came out. Add a further +1 if they're a priest. One of the 3 of them is a priest. In addition, add 1 to the roll for each other friendly Isharan hero within 3 of the model performing the ritual. Add 2 instead if the hero is within 3 of the priest. On a 10 or more, the ritual is successfully performed and has the effect listed below. On any other result, the ritual fails and nothing happens. And here are the 3 rituals. So you're probably using a few characters, hopefully near a shipwreck, close together, performing a ritual in the hero phase. It's a lot to stack up. But on 10, you can do it as 1 character. Roll 10 on 2d6. Ritual of Erosion. Until your next hero phase, enemy units do not receive the benefit of being in cover. A lot of shooting in this book, so that can be pretty good. Ritual of Rousing. Heal 1 wound allocated to each friendly Eidolon on the battlefield. In addition, you can reroll failed hit rolls and casting rolls for friendly Eidolons until your next hero phase. I like that. For either Eidolon you're going to use, Idolons of Mathlann, the aspect of the storm or the aspect of the sea, this is a great ritual for them. Ritual of the Tempest. Until your next hero phase, enemy models cannot fly. And a game of objectives, that's huge. So this is a whole new thing we're seeing in the game, this little ritual thing that can perform. You don't have to do any of this. I mean, you can. This is a fantastic idea. You can build your army to play with this or not. I think this big bunch of rules just for being out of the Deepkin allegiance is fantastic. And what's more, the first of all of these, what are they called again? Enclaves? I can't pronounce it. I'm not going to even try to pronounce it. Ionrak? The most numerous and widespread, the Ultramarines of the Deepkin, the main Deepkin faction, or not the main one, but the biggest one, right? Their command trait that the general must have is called Emissary of the Deep Places. Allied units of this army is treated as having the Tides of Death battle trait, and therefore use the abilities from Tides of Death table. So everything we've talked about, Tides of Death, can affect your allies if you choose the, I can't pronounce, Enclave. Not only that, it also gives their mages +1 to casting and unbinding. So I think that's going to be the most used, even though 1, 2, let's say 6 of them, 5 more are actually pretty good as well. Their allies can be Darkling Covens, Daughters of Cain, Eldritch Council, that's High Elf Mages, Order Serpentis, Scourge Privateers, Shadowblade, Stormcast Eternals, Sylvaneth, and Wanderers. Wanderers have a lot of rules for being in cover. You're guaranteed to have all those Wanderers in cover, any allied Wanderers in cover. Stormcast Eternals with the Tides of Death table, where they're always fighting first on turn 3. Can fall back and charge, can run and charge. It's really good. It's really, really good. Okay, so, I mean, I can talk more about the way things can work together for a while, but we should actually get into the actual units. We've gone through the Idolons, we've gone through the allegiance abilities and how they will probably be working on the table. Very janky, very frustrating for your opponent. Let's get into the units. So, we'll talk about the Akhelian Kings. These are these models riding the big seahorse type things. They're the fully sold, I believe it is, sect of the Deepkin. They are the upper class and the warrior class. The Akhelian King is just a 7 wound, 14-inch move, 3-up save, 8-up bravery combat character, and it flies because it swims through the air, obviously, right? It's got a great weapon. It's a bladed polearm, 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2 D3 damage. Like if it charges, I believe. It's damage 3 when it charges. Friendly Akhelians within 12 reroll 1s to hit. You can use command ability is Lord of the Tides. You can use this command ability if the model is your general, and the hide tide ability from your Tide of Death applies to the battle round you're playing. If you do so, pick a friendly Deepkin unit with wholly within 12 of the general. Add 1 to the attack characteristics of the melee weapons used by that unit till the next hero phase. I believe that only counts for the riders. I don't think that accounts for the mounts, because all the Akhelians... this is Deepkin, so it could be anybody. But the Akhelians are all mounted on something. Now, that's just the generic version. There's a character version, Volturnos. I think it's the same kit as well. He has a similar ability, command ability, except for it's pick 3 units within 18 instead of 1 within 12. His aura of reroll 1s to hit for Akhelians is 18 inches instead of 12 for the generic. And he's like 40 points more. I think there was his weapon, the Astra Souls, is a really cool weapon. It has 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, only -1 rend and D3 damage. But if he rolls a 6 to hit, it's -5. And I think the lore on this guy is he was like one of the first to be released from Slaanesh. One of the first that Techless failed. So these things are a little on the expensive side. They're like 240 points, 280 for the named character. And they're not behemoths. And they only have 8 wounds. But they have the killing potential. And the fact that they're probably not getting shot by the opponent probably won't warrant the high save and only 8 wounds. I think they're both... I have nothing bad to say about either one of these. I can't find a flaw. I'm like, oh, I wish they did this differently. Pretty solid characters. Oh yeah, in Volturnos, you can roll a dice. If this model is affected by a spell. If you do so on a 3+, the spell has no effect on the model. Even smites aren't going to get this guy. Oh, okay, let's talk about the Isharan. So the Tidecaster we know is the one that brings on the water. Only a 6-up save, 6-inch move, 5 wounds. But again, whatever about the save, because you're probably not going to get shot anyway, and you can probably keep him out of combat. It's a wizard. The personal spell to the Tidecaster is Riptide. Riptide is a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick an enemy with an 18 of the caster that is visible to them. Until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from the hit rolls from that unit. In addition, at the start of your next hero phase, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. -1 to hit. My favorite spells. Now, if this model is your general, you can actually reverse the tide table. You can start off, well, turn 5 would be still cover. What is it in reverse? I can say it forward, but I can't say it backwards. So in reverse, turn 1 you'd still be cover because 5 is that. Ebbing Tide is you can retreat and shoot or charge in the same turn. Turn 3 is still high tide, where everybody's fighting first. Turn 2, you can run and shoot or run and charge, and then 1 is cover again. I don't know if you ever want to reverse it, but I'm sure somebody can find a reason to want to do that. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Tide of Death ability is pretty solid the way they wrote it. Pretty good. And this character, who pretty much controls it, can just reverse it. Again, more of a fluffy thing than a useful thing, but I bet you if somebody finds some pretty sweet use for it. The Ishiran Soul Crier, this is the priest one. As an 18-inch range, 8 attack missile weapon, but it's 5s and 5s. But 8 attacks. At the start of your charge phase, you can pick one enemy within 24 of this model that is visible to them, and if you do so, you must add 3 to the charge rolls for friendly Idoneth Deepkin units that are within 12 of that unit. However, the first model to move from each of these units that receives this modifier must finish their charge within half inch of that unit. So you pick a unit, it's easier to charge them, but like everything within 12 of them is pretty much going to have to charge that thing if they want to charge and get within half of them. So that's all 3 of these characters are great. So on a book that can be very close comedy or might want to be very close comedy or very shooty, that's a must-include character. The last one, the Soul Render, it's a combat guy, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. Another D3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 1 damage, whatever. We're not using this guy to actually fight, but he has this little light in his head, a lure light. And what it does at the end of your battle shock phase, pick a friendly Namarti. Now the Namarti are the Battleline units. They're the guys without full souls or no souls. They're pale and no eyes. At the end of your battle shock phase, pick a friendly Namarti unit wholly within 12 of this model and roll a D3. Return a number of slain models to that unit you picked. Add 1 to the D3 roll for each enemy model that was slain by damage caused by... what? Oh, sorry. Add 1 to the D3 for each enemy model that was slain by damage caused by this model's hook. So if this model can potentially kill 4 models, you can add 1 for every model he kills personally in combat to returning Namarti models back to life. He's the guy who reaps the souls. At the start of the combat phase, pick an enemy hero that is within 3 of this model and roll a die. Subtract 2 from the dice if the enemy hero is a monster. On a 4+, you can reroll failed hit rolls for this model's hook for attacks to target enemy hero in that combat phase. So he's really good at keeping your battle line alive. Just keep returning your battle line. More models, D3, D3, D3. And he comes with a 4-up save and 5 wounds. He'll add a couple extra attacks for you, but keeps the battle line up and running. Let's jump over to the battle line before we go over to all the Akhelian stuff. So, Battleline is only Namarti Thralls, is only 1 Battleline unit in this book. Though, there's other ways to get Battleline, I'll explain that, in a moment. So the Namarti Thralls are the pale, no eyes, no souls, elves. They are not that expensive, 140 points for 10, with a little bit of a bonus if you go up to 30-man max. 6-inch move, only 1 wound, only 5-up save. Like the worst save in the book is from the Namarti, it's 5-up. Other than a couple of mages have a 6-up save. So the Namarti only a 5-up save, but again, cover turn 1. And there's a character that can bring D3 back very easily. They have 1-inch range on their weapons and 2 attacks each. 3s and 3s with a -1, 1 damage. 140 points for 10 guys, 2 attacks each, 3s and 3s, -1, 1 damage. That's not it, they're not done yet. The Icon Bearer is basically your sergeant. He also gets +1 attack. He reroll battle shock tests for the unit. Their bravery is 6. But again, you stack more bravery in these guys very easily. But their weapons have an ability called Sweeping Blows. Add 1 of the attack characteristics if the Lamari Blade, if all the attacks made with this weapon target enemy models with wound characteristics of 1. So if you're fighting models with 1 wound, they all get +1 attack. So if you're fighting a horde of guys, like zombie skeletons, anything with 1 wound, other elves, you get +1 attack. So now you have 3 attacks each, 3s and 3s. If they have a wound characteristic of 4 or more, you add 1 to the damage. So if you're fighting models with 1 wound, you get +1 attack. If you're fighting models with 4 or more wounds, you're damaged 2. All this for your battle line at 140 points for 10. Feels awesome. Now there's another version of Namarti. They're not Battleline, they're just Namarti Reavers. They're faster, they move 8. Same 5-up save, 1 wound, 6 of bravery. Their combat is a keening blade, it's 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, no rend. But they're the guys with the bows. And there's 2 ways to fire these bows. aimed fire and stormed fire. If it's aimed fire, it's 18-inch range, 1 shot, 4s and 4s. If it's stormed fire, it's 9-inch range, 3 attacks each, 4s and 4s. You can reroll 1s for the unit. They're blind, and they got bows. And they're not that expensive. Where are these guys? The Nimrod Reavers are same points as the other guys, 140 points for 10. No discount for max unit. Max unit is 20. But they become Battleline if you're Deepkin Allegiance and your general is an Isharan hero. So any of those 3 Isharan characters, these will make these guys Battleline if they're your hero. Now, there's the Akhelian. Oh man, this is again the one criticism I have to this book. I can't pronounce anything. So the Akhelian Ishlian Guard, or the Akhelian Morsar Guard are the mounted guys. If your general is Akhelian and your Deepkin Allegiance, those guys become Battleline. So 1 unit is Battleline for order, that's the Namarti, and then 1, 2, 3 more things can be Battleline if your general is a certain character for Deepkin. So let's go over all the Akhelian stuff because I'm excited for them the most. Even though the Namarti Thralls, the Battleline stuff, I was expecting them to be the tax for the army, the chaff I didn't really care about, but they got some killing potential for not a lot of points. Let's start off with the rank and file ones, if you want to call one rank and file. The Akhelian Morsar Guard. They have 4 wounds each. They have a 4-up save, bravery of 6, 14-inch move. The Morsar Guard are 160 points for 3. Max unit of 12, no bonuses, sorry, no discounts for max unit. Now these guys are your damage dealers. You can have a command unit. So you reroll battle shock if you have a banner. I want the attack if you have like a prince, that's the sergeant type thing. And you can reroll charge if it has a musician. So yeah, you put that little musician in there for sure. So combat abilities, they come with a Volt Spear, 2-inch range, 2 attacks each, 3s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage. The mount, the Fanged Mora, has its Fanged Maw. It's 1-inch range, 1 attack per guy. 3s and 3s, no rend, D3 damage. And then the Lashing Tail from this weird eagle thing, 2-inch range, D3 attacks, 3s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage. So basically you have 3 plus D3 attacks per model at 3s and 3s, no rend. 1 or D3 damage each. That alone is probably worth 160 for these guys. These ones were 160 for 3. They also fly. 14-inch move is insane. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can say this unit will unleash its biovoltic energy stored in its Volt Spears. If you do so, roll 1 die for each enemy model unit. For each 3+, pick an enemy unit within 3 of that unit. That unit suffers 1 mortal wound. For each 6+, the unit suffers D3 instead. Great bonus ability. Now, the best part, the real reason why I want to hit you guys is when they charge, the units of Volt Spears have a rend characteristic of -2 and damage characteristic of 2. So remember, it's turn 4, you can fall back and charge. Turn 3, you want me in combat anyway. You have characters that make their charges even easier. So a minimum squad will have, 7. Because 3 on the, what's it called, the Prince? The Lokian Prince. So 7 attacks for just the spears on a minimum squad for 160 points. Hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, -2, 2 damage each. That's good. I don't want to say too good, but, I wouldn't ask for more. The other Akhelian unit, the other Akhelian troop type unit is the Ishlian Guard. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. I have no idea if I am. 14-inch move, 4 wounds, 4 save, 6 bravery. That's exactly the same. Again, command group, they fly. They have a Hell Saber. It's 3 attacks each instead of 2. It's 3s and 3s. So everything else is the same. Their mount is the same. So 1 attack from the Maw, and D3 attacks from the lashing tail from the mount. But they're the more defensive of the two. So the Morsar Guard have the spears that really do damage on the charge. The Akhelian Ishlian Guard are the more defensive ones. So they're not getting any rend, but they have a bile-voltic barrier. So they're riding little eels, right? They're using eel electricity. They ignore the rend characteristics of all attacks. So they have a 4-up save. Basically, it's a 4-up invulnerable. They ignore rend. Now, something like Ethereal for Undead, which is they ignore positive and negative, they just ignore rend. So you can cast Mystic Shield on them. Give them a 3-up save. Plus, on turn 1, their count has been cover, and you have a 2-up save. You ignore rend. And if they're out front, your opponent has to shoot at them, because they can't pick other targets. If they've charged, their save goes up to 3-up anyway, instead of 4. Mystic Shield on these guys, on the charge, 2-up save. No rends on their attacks, but they do have 4 plus D3 each. And they're fast. They're going to hold objectives, and they're hitting and wounding on 3s. Like, enough dice will get through anything. Again, what more can you ask? 2 versions of these mounted Akhelians. The Morsar Guard, Ishian Guard, one super offensive, one super defensive. Yeah, they both will kill, and they'll both be hard to kill. The Akhelian Alopexes, those are the sharks. I'm going to say joss them every chance I get on camera. So these things are one model. Oh, sorry, the defensive Akhelians, the Ishlian Guard, are 3 models minimum, 12 maximum, 140 points, or even cheaper than the spear guys. No discounts for max squad. So 140 for 3 guys. Again, 4 wounds apiece. It's so good. So the Akhelian Alopexes are these sharks. They are 1 or more models. Alopexes are 140 points for one model. 140 points, up to 4 in a unit. They do have 8 wounds each, though. So you're getting a little less wounds for your points for these guys, but they're still pretty good. So they have a big harpoon launcher on their back. These sharks swimming around. The harpoon launcher is 24-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s. Or it can be a Rotarius net launcher, 18-inch range, 1 attack, 3s and 3s, but this one does 3 damage. So I think I'd rather the harpoon launcher, because harpoon launcher has same range. Sorry, harpoon launcher has same damage potential for greater range. It's got to roll more dice for it. But, you know, that's a different debate. Their missile weapons aren't terrible. So 5 attacks from the riders, hooks and blades. 3s to hit, 4s to wound. 5 attacks each, like 5 attacks. No rend, 1 damage. The Alopex himself has a crazy bite, only 1 attack. It is 3s and 3s, -2, 3 damage all the time. And his own bladed fins, the shark also has 4 more attacks. 3s and 3s, -1, 1 damage. So this one model with 8 wounds, 140 points, has exactly 10 close combat attacks. One of them does 3 damage. Half of them have -1 or -2 rend. And shooting attacks. And the model's cool. No complaints with this thing either. They also have a Bloodthirsty Predator special rule. At the start of your charge phase, if this unit is within 12 enemy models that has been allocated any wounds, so basically they're bleeding, shark smells blood, you can reroll charge rolls for this unit that charge phase. It doesn't say you have to charge a unit that has been wounded, though. Just if you're within 12 of a unit that hasn't been allocated wounds. Of enemy models that haven't allocated any wounds, you can reroll charge rolls for this unit in that charge phase. I wonder if they meant for you to charge the bloodied unit, but hey, they didn't say that. The last Akhelian, I think it's the second last entry in the book. Yeah, the Leviathan. The Leviathan. It's the big old turtle. I love this thing. So this guy's expensive, but not that bad. The Leviathan is 380 points, and your only behemoth in this book. Let's see what he does. He moves 12, and that gets degraded. Off fly, obviously. 16 wounds with a 3-up save. And again, remember, you're in cover turn 1 and 5. But it gets better than that. He comes with 2 of those harpoon launchers, so he has 6 shots, 3s and 3s. His combat abilities, Leviathan Crushing Jaws, is only 1 attack. Hits on 2s, that gets degraded, the worst that gets degraded to is hits on 4s. 1 attack, hits on 2s, wounds on 2s, always, -2, d6 damage. He has side fins like the shark, blades on his fins, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 3 damage, now that gets degraded, but it stays 3/3, 2/2, 1. So pretty good in combat, and shooting attacks. The riders up top, one guy has a spear for 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, and 2 harpooners can jab you with the harpoons for 4 more attacks, 3s and 3s. A lot of attacks. Only 380, 16 wounds, 3 up save. Shooting attacks, good combat attacks, but also has a void drum. It comes with a void drum. All Deepkin units are treated as being in cover while they're wholly within 12 of any Akhelian Leviathans. Leviathan is within 12 of himself. He will always be in cover. This thing has a 2 up save from shooting. I mean, you can rend him, sure. But, I mean, he just hands out cover within 12 of them for not a lot of points. I love the model. The only model I think is better than him is the last thing we're going to talk about is the Warden of the Soul Ledgers. His name is Lotan. You've seen the model. Got a little octopus hanging behind him. The octopus name is Ochre, or it's an ochre. Oktar? Oktar. Lotan is 5 wounds, 6 up save. Who cares? You can't target him from shooting, right? His combat abilities are the octopus standing behind him. So the Bone Quill, 1 attack. The little mace, the cudgel he has, 1 attack, 4s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. 1 attack from his little stabby knife, 3s and 4s, -1, 1 damage. And then 6 more attacks from his tentacles, 4s and 4s. But what does this guy do? I mean, the model's fantastic. Let's see if he's even useful. Add 1 to the Bravia characteristics of all friendly Deepkin units that are wholly within 12 of this model. In addition, reroll hit rolls of 1 for Namarti units while they're wholly within 12 of this model. So helping out your Namarti Battleline, which are probably my favorite Battleline I've seen for AOS in a while. And then the Withering Tentacles rule. Roll a die each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model. On a 5 up, the wound is negated. I don't know how useful this guy is. He has a little bit of a buff. He's not that expensive. Lotan, how expensive are you? He's 100 points. Like all the all the Isharan models, he's 100 points. He looks really cool. I don't know if I'd use him for, gaming purposes, but he's my favorite model in this entire line. You know what? My throat's getting dry, but I mean, there's battalions. There's one here where it has, it's called the Alliance of Wooden Sea. It's Sylvaneth tree stuff and Deepkin. Now, the Sylvaneth are not an ally, though, so you have to have this battalion, interestingly enough. But I don't know. So I'm going to go right this moment and go ahead and start painting this stuff, and I will get to some battle reports to Deepkin as soon as possible. This is exactly the way all Battletomes should be going. This is a fantastic book. I got nothing bad to say about this book, other than I can't pronounce everything without a few practices. The Daughters of Cain book was like this. It's really good. There's some really cool strategies and tactics and combos in Daughters of Cain. I think even more so in this book. And I'm super excited for the next one. Coming up soon, Deepkin Battle Reports. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy wargaming.